No, not this. You are allowed to want something else. And that is how it often starts. Not as a big dramatic realization, not as a clear plan, not as a voice that explains everything perfectly, but just a small inner knowing, a whisper, a tightening in your stomach, a heaviness after saying yes, a strange sadness after doing the thing that was supposed to make sense, a quiet sense of this is not mine. And then what do? We explain it away. We say, it's not that bad. Maybe I'm just tired, or I should be grateful. Other people have it worse. This makes sense on paper. I don't want to disappoint anyone. And little by little, we become very good at ignoring the voice that was actually ours. So today I'm talking about the voice you have been ignoring, and not the loud voice of fear, not the voice of pressure, not the voice of proving, the quieter one, the one that does not need to shout because it already knows. And put yes in the comments if you have ever known something before you could explain it. But I want to be very clear here. When I talk about your inner voice, I'm not talking about something mystical that removes all responsibilities. No, I'm not talking about ignoring real life. I'm not talking about making impulsive decisions and calling it intuition. And I'm definitely not talking about avoiding difficult things just because they feel uncomfortable. Because fear can be loud too. Old patterns can be loud. Resistance can be loud. The mind can create a whole story and make it sound like truth. What I'm talking about is something quieter. The part of you that knows when something is not aligned before your mind has a full explanation for it. The part that feels the difference between fear and truth. The part that does not panic. It just waits. And sometimes the reason you cannot hear it is not because it disappeared. It is because fear, logic, pleasing roles, schedules, and expectations have been speaking over it for years. But your inner voice does not always begin as a sentence. Sometimes it begins in a body, as a tight chest or heavy stomach or headache after saying yes. A throat that closes when you are about to agree to something you do not want. A body that feels tired around certain people even when nothing obvious happened. A strange relief when something gets cancelled. A sense of expansion when something is right, even if it's scary. And that matters, not because every sensation is a command, but because your body often notices before your mind is ready to admit. And many of us were trained to dismiss that, to be reasonable, to be good, to be agreeable, to make it work, to not be dramatic, to not be difficult, to not create problems. So we learn to ask what makes sense before we ask what feels true. We learn to ask what will they think before we ask what do I know? And we learn to ask, how do I keep this safe? Before we ask, is this actually mine? And write body in the comments if your body has ever told you the truth before your mind was ready to hear it. And let me tell you my story, because there was a time in my life when everything looked fine. I mean that honestly. I was doing the work, I was showing up, I was taking care of my children. I I was managing the days. I was functioning, but underneath there was this strange feeling that I was living inside the life built from someone else's blueprint. It was not completely wrong, but not fully mine. And every time I slowed down enough to listen, the old programming came in. There is no time for this. You are being too emotional. You should be grateful. You already have enough. Um, Other people have it worse. So I kept going because that is what we do when we do not yet trust the whisper. We turn the volume up on logic, on responsibility, on what looks right. And we turn the volume down on what feels true. Until one day I caught myself staring into the distance, completely numb, not crying, not falling apart, not just gone from myself. And then the whisper came back again. This is not who you are. And it was not a judgment, it was an invitation. And that was the moment when I realized I had not lost myself because my inner voice disappeared. I had lost myself because I kept overriding it again and again and again. So let's talk about the cost here. Because ignoring your voice is not neutral. It costs you. It costs you energy because you have to keep performing a yes, and that is not true. And it costs you presence because part of you is always somehow somewhere else trying to survive the life you keep saying yes to. And it costs you clarity also because the more often you override yourself, the harder it becomes to know what you actually want. And it costs you confidence because every time you abandon your knowing, you quietly teach yourself my voice does not matter. And then we wonder why we do not trust ourselves. But self-trust cannot grow in a life where your inner voice is always the last one consulted. You built it by listening earlier, before the resentment, before the exhaustion, before the body screams, before you need a dramatic reason to finally say, I knew this was not right for me. Okay, but someone can ask, how do I know whether it is my inner voice or just fear? And I just love that question because this is where we need discernment. Fear usually rushes, it pressures. It says, decide now, fix this, make them happy, do not risk it, hide, control everything, make sure no one judges you. The inner voice feels quieter, not always comfortable, but quieter. It does not threaten you, it does not shame you, it does not say you are stupid, you're selfish, you will ruin everything, but it might say pause, not yet. Ask for space. This is not yours. Take one step. Tell the truth. You see, fear often wants certainty before movement, but your inner voice gives you a next step before certainty. And that is very different. And let me give you just a simple practice today. Use it when you are about to say yes. Use it when someone asks something from you. Use it when you're making a decision and immediately want to ask 10 people, 10 other people what they think. And use it when your mind is busy building arguments, explanations, and justifications. I call it listen before logic. And there are three small questions in it. First one, what did I know first? So before the explanation, before the guilt, before the fear, before the list of reasons, what did I know first? It might be just knowing that it was a no or not now, or that I need space. I want this, or this feels wrong. This feels right but scary. This is too much. I need to ask for help. The second question is, what did my mind add after that? So this is where you look at the story. Did the mind say, but they will be disappointed? Or, but what if I'm wrong? Or maybe I'm being selfish? Or I should be able to handle it? Or everyone else manages? Or, but it looks good on paper? Or, but it would be safer to stay quiet? And it does not mean the mind is bad. It's just doing what minds do. Producing thoughts, trying to protect, trying to predict, trying to keep you safe. But you want to see the difference between the knowing and the fear that comes. And the third question is, what is one small true step? It's not about the whole life change. It's not about a dramatic decision, not like burning everything down, just one true step. And that step could be, I need to think about it, or I cannot answer today, or I want to talk about it, or I'm not available, I need rest, I want to try, or I need help, or I know this makes sense, but it does not feel right. And that's completely enough. So the practice is to ask those three questions. What did I know first? What did my mind add later? And what is one small true step? And that is how you begin hearing your own voice again, not by forcing clarity, but by making space for it. And now I want you to picture something. Just imagine a small wooden cabin deep in the woods. There is a fire inside. You are wrapped in a blanket. There is warmth. There is quiet. You have a cup of tea in your hands. And outside there is a storm, wind, noise. Branches are moving, rain against the window. The storm is real. But inside there's stillness. And that is what your inner voice can become. Not a way to control the storm, not a way to make life quiet all the time, but a place inside you that you can return to when the outside is loud, when people have opinions, when expectations pull on you, when fear gets dramatic, when guilt gets persuasive, when your mind starts building 10 different futures. And there is a place inside that knows, not loudly, not aggressively, but steadily. And the more you listen to it, the more familiar it becomes. The more you recognize its sounds, the more you understand, and you do not need to abandon yourself just because the outside is loud. And if you have been ignoring your gut for years, I want you to listen to this. Your voice is not gone. It may be quiet, it may be buried, it may be unfamiliar, it may come through the body before it comes through the words, but it's still there. And you don't need to make a huge move today. You do not need to explain everything. You do not need to have a perfect plan. You just need to begin listening. Just one pause, one breath, one honest sentence, one small step that does not betray you. And if you have been ignoring your own knowing and you want the question that helped me begin hearing mine again, comment voice below or send me voice in a DM and I'll send it to you. And if you're tired of proving, pleasing, overthinking, abandoning your truth, and still feeling like somehow you're not enough, I have a free resource linked below that can help you start seeing the deeper patterns behind the feeling. And if fear of judgment is part of why you keep ignoring your voice, if you're afraid people will think you're selfish, wrong, too emotional, difficult, or not enough, there is also a gentle $7 course linked below that can help you begin releasing the fear of judgment and shame. Both links are in the comment below. And if this live helped you hear something inside yourself a little more clearly today, subscribe because I'm going live for 30 days. For today, let this stay with you. Your voice is not too quiet. The world has just been too loud. Thank you for being here with me today.